Let's turn this way back. Judge, thank you, first of all.
The microphone was turned off. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay.
I could have heard you anyways, but I just want to make sure.
I thought so.
Yeah, thank you.
As you know, these are unique trials when the defense is not guilty by reason of insanity. Not unlike a capital murder case, you get to hear the mitigation during the course of the trial. And what we learned is that Bionca's 34 years old. She has no prior felony convictions. We accepted responsibility in this case. We acknowledged it in voir dire, in opening statement, and then in closing argument. She allowed for us to have that as a part of her defense. And we know that she's remorseful. You heard the testimony of Dr. West. She told you that once Bionca learned what had occurred, she was tearful. She expressed it. And throughout the course of this trial, Bionca demonstrated good behavior. She was polite. She never got out of pocket. And that is Bionca on medication. And that trial lasted for 8, 9, 10 days. If nothing more, we learned that she's two different people. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. When she's medicated, this is what you get. When she's not medicated, what happened on June 3rd, it's a different version of Bionca. Now, typically at this stage, as defense lawyers, we capitulate, we talk about responsibility, we talk about remorse. And what I want to say is this. Mr. Johnson and I respectfully disagree with the verdict. And while we have tremendous respect for that family back there and the courage that they've shown, the civility that they've demonstrated throughout the course of this trial, and respect for the state and law enforcement who did a great job in this case, although we accept the verdict, we respectfully disagree with it. And what I'll say is that you have to decide the worst form of the offense when you are sentencing. And we all know that all the experts in the case agree that Bionca was mentally ill. You know she suffered from a severe mental disease. There's no question about that. And that we all know that from at least January of 2024, all the way up until June of 2024, she was unstable, she was hospitalized, and she was not on medication. You had that evidence as recent as maybe 3 or 4 days prior to this incident while she was in the North Olmsted jail. So she's not okay from January to June of 2024. And then once she's arrested and she comes into the arraignment room for the next couple of months, we know that she's incompetent. Somehow, just on the day of the incident, she's not well. And I'm by no means, I'm not relitigating this. That's not my intention. You understand that. This is something that you're allowed to take into consideration for purposes of mitigation and deciding whether or not this case is the worst form of the offense. I am firmly convinced that had she been found not guilty by reason of insanity, based on my experience with these cases, that she'd probably be in hospital for the next 20, 30 years. You're allowed to weigh all of that. And she's been in custody for almost a year and a half. When on medication, she's been on custody without incident. I don't know if they want me to point them out, but she's had strong family support throughout the course of this trial. And looking at the sentencing factors under 2929.12, I think that there's a lot of mitigation in this case. And I know how powerful these facts are as it relates to the death of a child. And I know it's a very weighty decision for you. But judges don't make decisions based on emotions. You follow the law, you look at the sentencing factors, and then you make a decision based on her history and her characteristics. You make a decision based on what you know about her. So, both Mr. Johnson and I respectfully ask the court to consider 20 years before she's parole eligible to a life sentence and sentence her accordingly as it relates to Margot's injuries. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, anything? Anything on Ms. Ellis would like to speak?
I just want to say I apologize. I'm really sorry for what happened.
Okay. All right, you can be seated. Thank you. Justin, don't mind just pushing it right up to me so it's out of the way. Thank you. Thanks for doing that. So with respect to sentencing, so I have some comments that I'd like to make. You know, I think it's fair for all of you to understand, just as the lawyers have pointed out, there are certain guidelines I follow as a judge. And some of those things that are said